This is part of the Athens district of Aghos Dimitrios. Once an abandoned plot of land, it's been turned into allotments for urban farming. Maria Androutsou is mayor of this district. Like throughout Greece, her constituents have been hit hard by the eurozone crisis of budget cuts and austerity measures. Unemployment is at 30%. Most of the people cultivating these plots are unemployed. They grow their own products and even donate some to the local food bank.
I was a cleaning woman in a pharmacy and lost my job 4 years ago. Whom do I blame for this situation? I blame both the past and present governments, especially the present government. They see that we're going from bad to worse, and they keep making things worse.
The project is partially funded by the EU. It's paid for specialists to help these people. It's also helped remind Greeks of the benefits of being an EU member.
This area got assistance for its infrastructure from the European Union, and that made a lot of people change their minds about Greece being in the EU. There were a lot of people who were very skeptical about being in the EU because they thought it was all about politics and not funding projects that actually could help people.
Funding projects that help people, it's been one of the EU's founding goals, and Greece is no exception. Even today, it receives 6 times the amount it contributes. This nursery school is another EU-funded project to the tune of 700,000 euros. The municipality finances the school's daily running, but the mayor says without EU funds they could never have built this school. But she understands why many Greeks believe a lot of EU funds have been wasted or mismanaged. She says they need more scrutiny.
It's about how the money was used. Were we using it for development projects? That means they create work or jobs and support the national economy. Or did the money go to projects that were just window dressing, meaning that the benefits were short-term and of no use long-term?
For many Greeks, these so-called window-dressing projects are best personified by the Olympic Games of 2004. EU funds and low-interest bank loans as a Eurozone member helped transform Athens with new Olympic venues, a brand new metro, roads and a new airport. But like this graphic shows, Greece's GDP kept climbing once it joined the EU in 1981 and later the euro, only to start a dramatic decline when the euro crisis hit in 2009. A spending spree that had spiraled out of control when Greece's state spending turned out to be much more than it was earning in revenues. Its huge deficit was sending the nation towards a potential bankruptcy and exit from the Eurozone. The exit was avoided, but at a huge price. In exchange for bailout loans worth almost 360 billion euros, Greece agreed to introduce reforms and austerity measures such as pension cuts and higher taxes. On this street alone, more than 70 shops or businesses have shut their doors. Gone are the glory days of new investments or cheap loans thanks to a Eurozone membership. But what happened? What went wrong? And who, if anyone, is to blame? Who is to blame for Greece's staggering public debt, which led to 3 consecutive EU-IMF bailout loans in exchange for reforms and austerity? Loans that most Greeks and even most Europeans believe the country can't pay back unless there's some debt relief. George Papakonstantinou was Greece's finance minister during the first bailout in 2010. He says both Greece and Europe are to blame for the euro crisis, but he also believes the euro will survive.
The irony and the problem that we're all facing at the moment is that the economics tells you that you need to go towards a closer union and complete this construction which was created 10 years ago. And the politics goes in the completely opposite direction. The politics is much more nationalistic and it's much more every country for itself. The real question is, how do you reconcile the two? How do you manage to convince citizens that the only way for the Eurozone to survive is for a deeper integration and more robust institutions than what we have at the moment? That's what's going to be tested in 2017 in many European elections.
Taking the difficult decisions to survive not only a Eurozone crisis, but also a refugee crisis, which has helped ignite not only the growing flames of populism throughout Europe, but also a growing Euroscepticism among some EU members. And Greece, as the main port of entry along with Italy, has borne the brunt of the crisis. Last year alone, it's estimated that 46% of all refugees landed in Greece. At this center in Athens, these refugees are waiting to be relocated to other EU states. It's estimated the EU has given more than 800 million euros to help Greece with the refugee crisis. But for this NGO employee, a slow relocation process and closed borders aren't helping.
I think that Brussels and certain European states have shown their solidarity to Greece in terms of the refugee crisis. But I think that in the future we need to balance this out further, because it cannot be the case for any country, European country, that is receiving migrants or refugees because they're on the border, to have to deal with the issue by themselves.
While the majority of Greeks have shown incredible resilience in the wake of the refugee and Eurozone crisis, the burden is taking its toll. A recent survey showed that 71% of Greeks now have an unfavorable opinion of the European Union.